Hi, this is Charles with a demonstration of the vassal module for Nightfighter. You basically have two players. You have the player who can't not see the umpire window and the ump, but in this situation we can see the umpire window. And we've got a pre-set up scenario, which is scenario 3, which we'll be following along, which is also the example of play in the book. Very basic play, but it's enough to get you started in the game. And thank you, Big Al, for all your help on this. So we're going to start with Rules Section 3.4 to set up the scenario. The first step is to pull out the counters as directed by the scenarios. These are available from the Counters and Markers Mix, which is here. And then we're going to drop down to the Nightfighter section. Now, in a typical game, you will not see the player will not see the umpire window, but in this scenario, we can see both. Note that when the airplane is placed on the map, the tally number is 4, and it's automatically posted on the counter. And you can change that by right-clicking. The ID number can be changed if desired. Right-click on the counter, and this opens up the menu. Control-I also does this. Since F104s are cool, the ID will be 10. You can see it tracks movement. You can also clear the movement marker if you click here. Note how the counter is identified in the chat window. The last number shown is the tally number. The aircraft has an expert pilot. Mark this with an ace marker by right-clicking on the counter and selecting Control-E. We'll do both here and delete the marker. Another Control-E selection would make it crewed by a green crew. Control-E just cycles through the options. A few options here are made available when the Nightfighter is moved to the umpire-only window. Open this window and then right-click on the menu for review. Don't accidentally delete the counter. The Nightfighter is ready for play. Time to assemble the bombers, affectionately known as targets. Targets must be hidden from the player. To be sure of this, draw targets from the counter tray directly into the umpire window. Reopen only the umpire window. Note that the targets appear to be grayed out. This shows that they are invisible to the player. Also note that two are automatically assigned a tally number and rotated 180 degrees. The tally number can be cycled if desired by pressing Control-N or right-clicking on them. For example's sake, let's say that UMP needs to prepare 51 Lancaster targets for scenario 6. The easiest way to do this is to drag 6 Lancasters into the UMP window. Make the tally numbers equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by using Control-N. So first we'll sort them, and then we'll take the 5 and make it a 4. Then dividing 51 by 6, we get 8 with 3 remaining. So clone 3 stacks containing 9 targets, and 3 stacks will contain 8. Drag all the stacks to the coffee cup and check the total. 51, we're good to go. Note that a quicker way to send targets to the coffee cup is using Control-S. Okay, that example is over, so back to our game. To quickly delete the units in the coffee cup, I'll right-click them and draw at least 51 multiple cards. Then drag them from the cup and delete them. To randomize the drawing of the Wellingtons, drag, or Control-S, to the coffee cup. Our targets are ready. The next step, according to Rule 3.4, is to determine the environmental conditions and mark them on the map. Rolling the dice can be accomplished by clicking on the 1d6, 2d6, or question d6 in the menu above. Or clicking in the middle die and the umpire window only. Since the environmental conditions for scenario 3 are set, let's mark them on the map now. You'll find these markers in the Game Status Markers tray. here, and here. Placing the game turn is next. There's one last step Rule 3.4 doesn't list, but it's something that will really help us out. Since we're to ignore FLAC and AI search phase, let's delete them from the turn track. So here's the turn track. You can right click on this, and you can also dock it here to make it easier for play. You can right click on this and configure game turn, and you can edit out which sections that you don't want. So right click on the Turn 0 Move Bombers button, then configure, Game Turn, Configure Null. This opens the phase selection box. Deselect the FLAC and AI search phases. Now we're ready to play. So you just click the Move Forward, and update that to Turn 1, Move Bombers. Nothing to do here in the bomber phase, Move Bombers phase, so we'll move on. The scenario says to enter a bomber on turn 1, 3, and 6. Rule 8.1.4 allows delayed entry to fool the player. Rule 8.2.1 allows variable entry MP. For example's sake, let's enter a bomber now. Go to the UMP window and select either a red or a yellow chip. Since the red chip was pulled, we'll use red for the duration of the game. Since only a bomber is entering, reference the first line on the chit. That is the column of entry. Drag a bomber from the coffee cup directly to the map, just off of the column, just off board of the column. Remember that a player will not see any of this. Wellingtons are slow buggers, moving 2 star. This means that they move 2 on a non-asterisk game turn and 3 on an asterisk game turn, which is indicated on the turn here. Game turn 1 is a non-asterisk, so 2 is the MP. However, remember Rule 8.21, we could just move 1 for entry. Let's move him 2. There are several options for moving this guy. You can click and drag him. Notice the message window and how it is revealed that something moved, but the player won't know where. Only that something moved twice. There's a better option. You can open the right-click menu and select Control Up arrow. No giveaway messages here, but there's an even easier way, especially if you have to move many bombers as in Scenario 6. Clicking on the Move 1 button moves everything target related 1 hex towards the bottom of the map. Or should I say, in the direction that the counter is facing. So let's put this guy back in column 2 and move him 2 MPs. Okay, ready for the next phase? The player is now to move his fighter. A Ju-88C-2 moves 3 star. So let's say he moves. Next phase. Turn updated from turn 1 to move fighters to turn 1 radar search. The player gets a Freya and a Wurzburg radar. They're available from the radar search tray. The player doesn't know if a bomber has entered yet, so the results of his first radar search can be very confusing. Rule 3.1.2. Let's say he places his radars here. Note that the radar search area is highlighted. If the target was within this area, we'd have to report a contact rule, Rule 3.1.1. Since there is a bomber on the map, we have to be honest in the placement of the sweep counters. You can use the range tool, the slanted barbell icon above, to quickly check for legal locations of sweep counters. Referencing the Wurzburg From 1101 and 1102, the target range is 9. From 1202, the range is 10. Thus, either 1101 or 1102 are legal sweep placement locations. Generate a sweep counter from the right-click menu of the radar counter. Let's use the range tool to check the 15XX row for the FRIA radar. 1501, 1502, and 1503 are all 13 hexes away, so all are legal. FRIA creates a sweep marker. So what does the player know at this point? Well, if there's a bomber on the map, it's left of column 11. That's a big if at this point. We won't enter a searchlight sector for some time yet, so let's move along. So there's no way that the JU-88 can be close enough to tally at this point. But later in the game, you could be deceptive and roll some dice to make it appear so. No tally, Mr. Player. With no tallies, there isn't a chance for the Nightfighter to shoot. There's a chance for the target to react if in the same hex as the Nightfighter. So again, later in the game, the ump can pretend to roll the dice on the ump window to make the player think that he might be closer than he knows. It's a really good idea here to clear the move tags from all the pieces at this point. Click the red, yellow M above, which is here. Now move the turn counter along the track. And that's the end of the demonstration. I hope to have more later on, and I hope you enjoyed the review. Thank you.